So before we start this video, I want to give a warning to the people that want to go out their way to read the series on their own. Like I said in the last video, the mangaka has some loli art in some of these chapters. I do not support loli art, but I want this video to be the alternative where you can still enjoy the story and not deal with the perverted panels. But thank you guys for understanding, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Oh man, was that last video a freaking doozy. So let's just go ahead and get straight into it. If you haven't seen the last part, the link will be in the description, but for a small recap, Kogami is a regular high school student until a magical girl comes to his school and slaughters everyone except for him, his childhood friend Sukune, and Yuruka. In the last volume, the cop Akuda declared to kill Sukune to put an end to all of the magical girl apocalypse, while Kaede is currently being held hostage by Sukune's alter ego, Asuka. Now, I didn't like the first part of the series, but let's see if this actually gets a little bit better. At least a little bit. Back when she was a kid, Sukune was obsessed with magical girls but never wanted to be one. Instead, she wanted... Actually, it's nothing. In the present, Sukune's father walks in on Asuka holding Kaede hostage. Asuka lets Kaede go, saying that she never intended to hurt her loyal lapdog. Kaede demands to know what Asuka is planning and what her connection is to the magical girl apocalypse. Meanwhile, Akuda, in another room, explained that he traveled back 10 years in time due to a magical girl's power. He asks Yuruka if she remembers being attacked by a pervert as a child, and when she confirms it, he realizes that they've actually changed the future. Yuruka then tells Akuda that he saw Sukune talking to her father, revealing that Sukune, now calling herself Asuka, was the one who started the magical girl apocalypse, all in an effort to ensure a happy ending. Akuda realizes that they don't have any weapons or an escape plan, so he devises one. They must get hit by the same time-traveling magical girl. Since she has recently been revived and spotted in the hospital, their goal is to find her, go back 10 years in the past, and then kill Sukune, preventing the magical girls from ever existing. Yuruka initially hates the idea, but after everything that she has witnessed, especially what Miu, the little girl, has suffered through, she agrees to do it for her sake. Meanwhile, Sukune's father drops to his knees, begging Asuka to leave Sukune's body. He has been enslaved by Sukune much like Kaede. Ever since she started high school, Sukune had completely changed, forcing her father to obey her while keeping it a secret from her mother. Kaede, having had enough of Sukune's threats, pulls out a gun, declaring that she is going to kill her. Back at the helicopter, the crew is about to leave when they are spotted by a zombified Ashiya and Natsukawa, charging straight at them. Kogami, injured and limping through the hospital, searches for Sukune and Kaede but then collapses. Just as a magical girl is about to kill him, a hooded figure appears and saves him, saying, "What a troublesome man my master is." Elsewhere, Akuda and Yuruka encounter the time-traveling magical girl, but before they can reach her, the parasite magical girl attacks from behind, crushing Yuruka's body. As she gasps her final breath, the parasite girl kicks her head clean off. Enraged, Akuda swears vengeance and charges at her, but she punches straight through his chest, leaving him bleeding out. The parasite girl then turns her attention to Miu. Suddenly, Akuda's eyes snap open, and he stabs the parasite girl in the head. All of his wounds have been healed. The parasite girl watches in shock as Akuda effortlessly slices her body apart and rips her head off. When she punched through his chest, remnants of an old magical girl's powdered body mixed with his blood, granting him the regenerative abilities and strength of a magical girl. Akuda pins her severed head to the wall, vowing to torture her endlessly until she begs for death, unless she talks. She refuses, however, warning that if she speaks, she will explode. Akuda cleverly shifts to a yes or no questions, instructing her to blink her left eye for yes and her right for no. He asks if the person she mentioned before was Sukune. She blinks left, yes. He asks if Sukune created the magical girls. She blinks left, yes. He then asks if anyone helped Sukune. She blinks right, no. Finally, he asks if Asuka was the one that created the magical girls. She blinks right, no. Realization dawns on Akuda. He asks if the magical girls came from the future. She blinks left, yes. Meanwhile, Kaede keeps her gun trained on Sukune, declaring that she will kill her for Miki, her family, and everyone else who has died because of her. She pulls the trigger. At the same time, the parasite girl questions Akuda, asking him how he knows that they're from the future. He says that if a magical girl can send people back in time, then there must be others capable of manipulating space-time. However, the parasite girl insists that she doesn't know anybody who could even do that. It no longer matters to him though. If he kills Sukune now, her future self will never be able to send the magical girls back to this time. He asks if Sukune came here to change the future. She blinks left. Yes. The hooded figure lays Koagami on a hospital bed and hands him a piece of paper, as it says, "I leave the future in your hands." When he wakes up, he's completely healed, and he reads the note that says, "I cannot tell you who I am or reveal my name, but I can tell you this, Koagami. I am not your enemy. I am your ally. I will die very soon, but before I disappear from this world, there is something that I wish to give you. That will be revealed to you once you have finished reading this letter to its end. There is one other thing I need to tell you. You are the only person who is capable of changing the future. It all comes down to one thing. You need to make a choice. That choice is..." Back with Kaede, Sukune's father takes the bullet for her. He insists that someone is controlling Sukune, but Kaede points out that she had a doll of the magical girls even back in elementary school. Sukune's father is at a loss of words. Meanwhile, the note that Koagami was given transforms into a gun, except that it's actually a magical girl wand. Akuda sews the parasite girl's mouth shut and goes in search of Sukune, leaving Miu behind. Suddenly, the time-traveling magical girl appears and blasts Miu away. Asuka flees towards the helicopter, believing Koagami is there. Her father and Kaede chase after her, with Kaede's gunfire alerting both Koagami and Akuda. Akuda is intercepted by the mechanical magical girl, but he quickly takes her down. On the rooftop, Sukune and her father board the helicopter, while Kaede holds them at gunpoint. Akuda leaps onto the helicopter, and Koagami arrives behind Kaede. From another building, the hooded figures watch the scene unfold when suddenly, someone crashes behind them. Sukune's father panics upon seeing the same boy who entered his house 10 years ago, wondering how this is possible. Akuda lays everything out. They've altered the future, the magical girls came from the future, and the only way to save the world is to kill Sukune. Koagami and Kaede don't believe him, but Akuda charges forward and takes Sukune hostage. Sukune in turn reveals Asuka to Koagami and asks how Akuda gained magical girl powers. Akuda responds by slitting her throat. Suddenly, the world begins to crumble. The entire city starts collapsing. Akuda, proclaiming himself as the policeman who saved the world, celebrates his victory until Koagami shoots him with the magical wand, paralyzing him. Koagami catches Sukune's body, but before he can react, Kaede is brutally killed by Natsukawa. Koagami quickly kills her in return and then rushes to Kaede's side. Akuda insists that he must save Kaede by killing Sukune, that he must change the future. He recalls the note given to him. Sukune, barely alive, grasps onto Koagami's hand and reveals that another person, Asuka, has been living inside her. Asuka was placed there by somebody. She begs Koagami to end her life. At the other building, a masked woman appears behind the hooded figures, calling them traitors, and giving them 3 seconds to settle things. The 2 hooded figures disappear on top of a tower. The masked woman, though, holding the tower in her hand, crushes it, saying farewell to her sensei. As the hooded figure falls, their masks begin to crack, revealing their true identity, Kaede, but from the future. She whispers that she still has hope for a happy ending before dying. Koagami then pulls the trigger, killing Sukune. The world begins to collapse further and debris rises into the air. A shadowy figure is seen recording the entire event with a dead body in the background. The masked woman calls out to the figure, blaming them for the traitors. That figure was the one who created the Magical Girl Apocalypse project in the first place, even adding in zombies to the Magical Girls just for fun. It is revealed that he has already died in this world. That person is Himeji. Himeji calls out, "I'm looking forward to working with you in the next world." The volume ends with Akuda asking the Magical Girl one final question as the entire world is destroyed. The volume begins in the new world, where Kaede is screaming inside a restaurant with Miki standing in front of her. Terrified and confused, Kaede frantically asks Miki what day it is. Miki replies that It's May 23rd, 3 days after the world was destroyed. Kaede then asks about the magical girls, but Miki has no idea what she's talking about. Panicking, Kaede runs out of the restaurant and heads straight towards the school, where she encounters Yuruka. She questions her, but Yuruka has no memory of any disaster, a perverted cop, or even Ren. However, a boy named Kogami approached her, talking about some magical girls. Kaede reaches into her pocket and finds the magical girl doll, confirming that everything that happened wasn't just a dream. With everyone alive, the magical girls gone, and the world 3 days into the future, Kaede wonders if that means that the world has been saved. Just then, a teacher arrives with some terrible news. Sukune has just died in a car accident. At a police station, Akuda is screaming in fear. As he rushes outside, he laughs, realizing that his plan has worked. He then goes back inside, searching for a person labeled as deceased. Meanwhile, Kaede goes to Sukune's house, searching for answers. When she arrives, Kogami answers the door. Inside, she finds Sukune's father, who remembers everything. They reveal that because Sukune was killed, they have entered a parallel world where magical girls never existed. However, Sukune isn't truly dead. Suddenly, Sukune's father receives a disturbing call. At a hospital, Akuda enters the morgue, searching for Sukune's body, only to find it missing. At a ramen shop, Himeji is eating when the masked woman, who is called the Puppet Master, appears beside him. Himeji, using the ramen shop owner as a vessel to speak, listens as the Puppet Master reports an emergency. Someone has acted before them. She explains that someone else had taken Sukune's body already, which means that their plan to give birth to magical girls have failed. Meanwhile, Kogami recalls reading a note that forces him to make a crucial choice. He must either save the world or choose love. If he chose love, he will never be able to save the world. If he chooses to save the world, he must kill the person that he loves. However, this death is only temporary. If he wishes to find love again, he must seek someone in the new world. In a flashback, Kogami is seen in the parallel world crying as his crush, Inui, confesses her feelings to him before walking away. Desperate for answers, Kogami rushes to Yuruka, but she doesn't even recognize him. He then visits Sukune's house, where Sukune's father greets him with hostility. However, Kogami admits that he didn't actually kill Sukune, and then explains the whole situation. In the present, neither Akuda nor Kogami actually knows what happened to Sukune's missing body. Before Akuda was transferred to the parallel world, he had asked a magical girl a crucial question: how are magical girls made? He promised to revive her in exchange for the truth. She complied, revealing that magical girls are created using Sukune's body. Because she isn't an ordinary human, it seems that someone else is trying to create magical girls. Akuda, however, wants to create them for a different reason, so he can gain their powers, control the world, and be with Yuruka. Meanwhile, at the ramen shop, Himeji is revealed to be the mastermind behind everything, getting Sukune and Kogami closer together. He is also the only one capable of gathering the 13 magical girls' children. To execute their plan, they must do two things. 1. Recover Sukune's body, and 2. Kill Kogami by injecting another personality into him, just like what they did with Asuka. However, unlike Asuka, who was a failure, this time they will ensure that the new personality would completely erase the old one. Back with Kogami, he reads in a letter that if he wants to find love again, he must seek out Sukune's mother. The world will be rewritten and the contents of reality will shift to a new location. However, Sukune's father cannot come into contact with her, as they suspect that she might be the one who actually took Sukune's body. Kogami then questions him about a conversation that they had 10 years ago. Sukune's father explains that he once received an email stating that on May 30th, an injured boy would appear at his doorstep. He was instructed to take the boy in and treat his wounds. The email included a check for 10,000 yen and another message warning him never to tell the boy about it. Suddenly, the doorbell rings. It's Akuda, pointing a gun at Sukune's father, demanding to know where Sukune's body is. Kogami then appears next to him, pointing his magical wand at Akuda and ordering him to drop his weapon. They restrain him with cuffs and interrogate him about why he's searching for Sukune's body. Akuda simply responds that he just wants to know what happened to her in this world. The group takes Akuda's car and heads towards the hospital. However, as they drive, a tall figure appears in the middle of the road and charges straight at them. It's the parasite magical girl. She leaps over the car and then punches the puppet master in the face. Another woman suddenly appears on the car window, greeting Akuda with a sinister "long time no see" before saying that she misses him. She then orders the parasite magical girl to kill the puppet master. The puppet master transforms into the kaiju magical girl and engages in a brutal fight with the parasite magical girl. It transforms again and it crushes the parasite girl. The puppet master teleports inside the car, claiming that she means no harm, but has some business with Kogami. However, before she can continue, the other woman severs her fingers, and then the parasite magical girl rips her in half. The woman instructs Akuda to head towards the lab. On the way, Akuda asks who she is. She then reveals that she is Miu, the little girl that Akuda once saved at the hospital. However, Akuda doesn't actually remember her. Miu explains that she idolizes him, believing that he is a god for saving her life. The time-traveling magical girl had sent Miu back in time 20 years. They then arrive at the lab where Sukune's mother is waiting for them, prepared to reveal the truth about their race of witches. We then flash back to Himeji attacking guards and approaching a mysterious person, asking for the power of a demon. Back in the present, Sukune's mother leads the group to the basement where Sukune's body is stored. She reveals that the parasite magical girl isn't actually a magical girl but a alternative magica, created using the blood of a magical girl. The girls they've seen are actually futuristic weapons from 20 years in the future, with the hole in the sky being a wormhole. Miu explains that when she was sent back in time, she couldn't actually return, so she lived in a home for 12 years before a hooded figure approached her with an alternative magical girl. This figure told her everything about the disaster, its causes, its effects, and how to actually create alternative magical girls and their wands. So, she sought out Sukune's mother to warn her. Sukune's mother then reveals the truth. She and Sukune are descendants of a child born from a human and a demon, meaning Sukune is, by blood, a magical girl. Long ago, a child was born from such a union, gaining supernatural powers. However, she was prosecuted, and years later she was sentenced to death as a witch. She escaped, fell in love with a man, and bore children, passing her powers down through generations. There are 13 witch families, with Sukune's mother being a 7th generation and Sukune being the 8th. The puppet master is attempting to gather the 9 generations from other families. The alternative parasite magical girl claims that she was saved by someone when the world was collapsing. That someone turned out to be the same person who told Miu of the disaster, and he's actually inside the lab. They head inside and the group finds all of the magical girls, but they're not enemies. They are actually allies who will fight alongside them. The hooded figure then appears before them, ready to reveal his identity. The volume ends with the mysterious figure asking Himeji what he plans to do with the power of a demon. Himeji responds that he intends to create an entire universe in 4-dimensional space, and that he is seeking the witch's help to do it. But before we get to the next part, I just want to say that we now have a Discord server. So if you guys want to talk about your favorite series, get recommendations, and just connect with some like-minded fans of mine, then this is the server for you. We'll soon be hosting live community events like games, live reactions, and live readings only on the Discord server. So if you want to be involved in this, then why not scroll down and join our community? But back to the video. The volume continues the conversation between Himeji and the witch, where she ultimately agrees to grant him power. Himeji then begins kidnapping all of the 9th generational magical girls from their families. These magical girls vary in age, from babies to teenagers who have already awakened their powers. Halfway through his plan, one of the girls is deemed ready, so he releases her to aid in the search. Since this girl possesses the ability to use all of the powers of the alternative magical girls, he names her Puppet Master. After successfully kidnapping 12 of the magical girls, only one remains. However, Sukune is not having children anytime soon, so Himeji decides to accelerate the process by injecting the consciousness of one of the 9th magical girls into Sukune named Asuka. We then cut back to the witch, who questions Himeji on why he desires the power of a demon. He responds that he seeks the ability to create everything in the palm of his hands. Simply put, he wants to become a god. In the present, Puppet Master appears alongside Himeji, continuing the search for Sukune. Though the search proves difficult, Himeji reminds Puppet Master that she does not have to work alone. He then reveals an entire army of Puppet Masters, identical to the original. Meanwhile, the hooded figure reveals his identity. His name is Tonogaya, a scientist from 20 years in the future who has dedicated his research to studying the race of witches and magical girls. He is also the creator of the alternative magical girls in the present day. He presents several ancient documents detailing the history of witches and magical girls, though one crucial page is missing. This missing page supposedly contains information about a ritual involving 13 9th generation magical girls. Tono warns that somebody is planning to conduct this ritual at the Altar of Time. Every 9th generation magical girl has been captured, except for one, Sukune's daughter. Tono reveals that the true purpose of the Magical Girl Apocalypse project was to ensure that Sukune and Kogami would come together, leading to the birth of their child 20 years in the future. Kogami refuses to believe him and he points his magical wand at Tono, demanding to know how he possesses this knowledge. Tono then asks Kogami, "Who do you think that gun was made for?" He explains that he personally created that gun and had the hooded figure deliver it to Kogami. He further revealed that he has been watching Kogami this entire time through the eyes of the hooded figure. This hooded figure was originally a subordinate to the enemy, but in reality, she was actually a spy for the resistance. She sought Tono's help in executing her plan, and together they created one alternative magical girl, the time travel alternative. This allowed Kogami to travel to the past and then learn crucial information about the disaster. Tono also confesses that he was the one that sent Sukune's father the mysterious email, guiding him to aid Kogami. Sadly, he had made a promise to the hooded figure that he would not expose her identity. However, he does disclose that she is currently badly injured and recovering in the future. Now that everything has been explained, Tono states that they must accomplish 3 key objectives. First, they must protect Kogami at all costs from the Puppet Master by using the alternative magical girls. Second, this war will only end when either they or their enemies perish. Therefore, they must locate and eliminate their enemies before being targeted themselves. They also now understand that the Puppet Master is merely just a subordinate, serving someone from 20 years in the future. And lastly, they must travel 20 years into the future using a time tunnel that Tono has been working on. Their goal is to find Sukune's soul, though they have no clue when or where to begin their search. Only the hooded figure knows this information. The machine will be ready in 1 week. Until then, they must survive. Tono provides everyone with weapons except for Akuda. Kogami takes his weapon, not trusting him. Before they leave, Tono whispers something in Kaede's ear and wishes them good luck. The group then parts ways. Kaede and Kogami walk home together, accompanied by the alternative magical girls. As they walk, they inspect the weapons Tono provided them, discovering that they allow the users to transform like a magical girl. Before going their separate ways, Kogami promises to one day answer Kaede's feelings, despite being destined to have a child with Sukune. Kaede reassures him that she will wait as long as it takes. They then go home with Kaede returning to her little sister, while Kogami heads to his grandmother's house. Upon entering, Kogami is shocked to find his mother alive. He realizes that by giving her hope 10 years ago, he has changed the past. Overwhelmed with emotion, he breaks down in tears. His mother, meanwhile, questions why there's a little girl standing behind him. We then see the rest of the group relaxing in their homes, seeking comfort as the alternative magical girls stand watch. However, at Sukune's residence, an unknown figure is seen stalking them. Elsewhere, Miu and the parasite magical girl are staying over at Akuda's filthy apartment. Miu, having saved herself for Akuda for years, undresses and attempts to initiate intimacy with him. However, the moment is abruptly interrupted when Puppet Master teleports into their room. Parasite immediately attacks and Miu slices Puppet Master into tiny pieces until she realizes that there are more of them. Meanwhile, at Kogami's house, he wakes up to find a Puppet Master on top of him. Before she can act, Kogami's alternative magical girl swiftly strikes her down, urging him to leave the situation to her. Puppet masters also appear in Sukune and Kaede's home, but their alternative magical girls easily destroy them. However, the puppet masters regenerate even after being punched in half, thrown off a building, or even sliced in half. Back at Akuda's apartment, a puppet master proposes an alliance, offering him anything that he desires, including Yuruka. She then threatens him, suggesting that if he refuses, Yuruka may sleep like this forever and never wake up. Enraged, Akuda pins Puppet Master to the wall while Miu rips off her head. Anticipating such a threat, Tono had previously sent alternative magical girls to protect Yuruka's house as well. The volume then ends with Miu instructing Parasite to use Confusion. Meanwhile, at Kogami's house, his alternative magical girl tells him to use Tono's weapon to activate Confusion, which will merge them together. The 8th volume begins with Miu activating Confusion using the device Tono gave her. She merges with Parasite, slicing up all of the puppet masters to the point where their cells can no longer regenerate. Confusion is the ability to merge a magical girl alternative with a human, creating a magical half. Seeing this, Himeji orders the puppet masters to retreat and all of the copies flee. Everyone is safe, including Miu, who returns to normal and hugs Akuda. However, she suddenly begins coughing up blood and is taken to the lab for treatment. Meanwhile, Himeji and the puppet master discuss the confusion technique, calling those who use it a bunch of idiots for risking their lives. The puppet master asks if this is what people mean by love, but Himeji merely just laughs, calling it shameful, so shameful that it makes him want to crush the world into dust. At the same time, Yuruka is confused about what just happened. However, she begins to recall moments from the previous world. The next day, Kogami and Kaede go to school as if everything was normal. Kogami still finds it hard to believe that the same magical girl who once massacred all his classmates is now protecting him. He realizes that Tono deliberately kept them in the open instead of hiding them in the lab to lure out the puppet master's real boss. This revelation leaves him unfocused, and in the classroom, Himeji is seen staring at him. Back at the lab, Miu is receiving medical treatment. Parasite explains that the confusion technique is similar to how Akuda obtained magical girl powers, except Akuda only took a tiny amount of DNA, where Miu absorbed all of Parasite's DNA. Because of this, it's not something that can be used continuously. It takes an extreme toll on the body. Akuda tries to leave to visit Yuruka, but Parasite calls him out, saying that Miu sacrificed her body to protect him, only for him to act like he doesn't care. Tono then reveals that confusion was Miu's idea. After seeing Akuda's power at the hospital, she volunteered for the painful and dangerous procedure, all for Akuda's sake. However, Akuda actually doesn't care, saying he never asked anyone to protect him, and he turns to leave. Miu weakly calls out to him, saying that she's just glad that he's safe. Meanwhile, in an abandoned warehouse, the puppet master thanks Akuda for visiting and urges him to tell him everything he knows, promising to grant his wish in return. Back at school, Kogami steps out of class and is suddenly confronted by Inui, who asks him to go out with her. Before Kogami can respond, his alternative magical girl interrupts, causing Inui to become furious and storm off. As she walks away, she begins remembering her death from the previous world. Later, Kogami and Kaede meet up, and Kogami's alternative magical girl tells him that they need to talk. Meanwhile, Ren is out hanging out with his friends when he is suddenly approached by Yuruka. She asks if he remembers her, but he doesn't. She admits that her memories aren't entirely clear, but she recalls details about him, including his death. Panicked, Ren tries to run off, but she grabs onto him, triggering his memories of the previous world. Overwhelmed, he begins freaking out, insisting that they need to find the others. Akuda watches from a distance, wondering why Yuruka's memories have returned. Back at the warehouse, the puppet master tempts Akuda by offering him Yuruka as his personal sex slave in exchange for revealing their plan. However, Akuda has his own questions. What will happen if they collect all 13th 9th generation magical girls? The puppet master explains that their leader will ascend to godhood, gaining the power to rewrite the entire universe. However, once her father becomes a god, he will overwrite Yuruka's existence and she will become his devoted lover. Hearing this, Akuda agrees to the deal, The puppet master then asks where Sukune's body is. At a restaurant, the alternative magical girls order an absurd amount of food while introducing themselves as Liv, Coco, and Lolo. They explain that Tono created them with intelligence to gather information and protect the others. However, they lack any emotion and they don't actually care about Tono's true intentions. Upon leaving the restaurant, Ren and Yuruka run into the group and they are confused as to why there are magical girls with them. Akuda also appears, questioning how they regained their memories. Back at the lab, Miu has fully recovered. Parasite enters and informs them that Akuda might be plotting something and that the people from the previous world are starting to remember. Tono speculates that it could be due to deja vu, but either way, he has a really bad feeling about this. Kogami catches them up on everything and the group decides to head to the lab. But suddenly, Himeji appears behind them, holding a piece of paper that states he too has memories of the apocalypse. They allow Himeji to join them as puppet masters watch from afar. The group arrives at the lab where Sukune's parents soon arrive. As they descend into the facility, Tono questions why they brought them along. However, Kogami remains distrustful of Tono and demands to know why he left them out in the lab in the first place. Tono explains that identifying the enemy is crucial, but even more importantly, they need to locate Sukune's soul. To do that, they must return to the place where it all began, the international pharmaceutical company Wahalibe. This company was originally known for developing vaccines and treatments capable of curing even the most advanced stages of cancer. However, deep within the company, they were secretly conducting illegal human experiments on magical girls. Their mission is to infiltrate the company and uncover the truth. Suddenly, Akuda pulls out Kogami's wand and points it at the group. He declares that the enemy is here inside the room. Akuda then explains the deal he made with the puppet master, that her boss requires the time machine to return and retrieve Sukune's body. This means that the enemy must be a man, and it has to be someone who wasn't at the lab before, someone who just regained their memories. That's when they remember that Himeji is deaf. If that's the case, how did he understand their last conversation? Akuda immediately fires at Himeji, but he dodges the attack, revealing his true colors. Himeji admits that he has been the one orchestrating everything from the very beginning. He has thoroughly enjoyed watching them suffer throughout the whole apocalypse, but now, it's time to end things. Akuda lands a devastating shot on him, blowing off half of Himeji's body. However, Himeji instantly regenerates as he cannot die. One of the alternative magical girls attempts to attack, but Himeji stops her with ease. He possesses the ability to manipulate time for anything that he sees. Essentially, he can accelerate an object's decay. Using this power, he activates the time tunnel by aging it rapidly. He then gives the group an ultimatum. If they do not want to die, they only need to raise their hands. Akuda is the only one who complies, and as a result, Himeji rips off Akuda's arm. The group charges at Himeji in desperation, but he merely smirks, bidding them good night, and effortlessly knocks them all unconscious. The volume ends with the puppet masters carrying both Kogami and Sukune's body into the time tunnel as they head towards the future. Magical Girl Apocalypse actually managed to shock me even more by making all of my points from the last part just completely useless. Except the loli part, that still applies. First off, I mentioned that the time travel was useless, it was unnecessary, and that it had no point in the story, and that it could have just been a one-off thing. However, they managed to make the time travel into a huge part of the story where it not only alters the future, but it also affects the other parallel worlds out there. The good thing is that the keeping track of the timelines isn't that hard to grasp. There is the first world where we see in the first 5 volumes, and then there's the parallel world where 20 years in the future, Himeji tries again to set up the Magical Girl project. The last chapter of volume 5 was so shocking, the way that the end of the world happens, and the beginning of volume 6 where it seems that everything is now okay, that the world is saved. Which brings over to my other complaint from the last part, the fact that there were a ton of characters and most of them just die right after getting introduced. With the new parallel world, the series actually manages to fix that by not only bringing in cameos from old characters like Miki and Inui, but also returning characters into the group like Ren and Yuruka. Not only that, but really small and useless characters from the beginning now play huge roles with Miu going from a girl that we barely saw to one of the most powerful soldiers in the group. And obviously, Himeji, a deaf student that just ran around for a couple of chapters, to basically the final villain boss of the series. There are characters that never show up again, like the military soldiers and the first group of people in Volume 1, but we can't really put them out yet. That being said, there are still a ton of problems with this series. Yes, the time travel plays a big part in the story, but that doesn't make it entertaining. In just 5 volumes, this series went from a magical girl zombie apocalypse to a time-traveling Power Rangers trying to stop a devil worshipper. The first 5 volumes was already filled to the brim with so much stuff, and now adding in Race of Witches, Altar of Time, a whole ritual that needs a generation of magical girl bloodlines, time travel tunnels, and a freaking evil Oscorp company. It just feels like a whole cutaway gag from Family Guy. It's just so much stuff just added on and on and on and on. Also, please stop trying to make me like Akuda. People keep on saying that Akuda gets redeemed in Volume 5 and he becomes the hero. Well, I don't care if he's a quote-unquote hero, because bro has tried so many times throughout the whole series to be and sexually assault people multiple times. Even before the apocalypse even happened, him and his cop buddy would try to hit up high schoolers as 20-something-year-old cops. And now the mangaka wants me to root for this guy. He actually wants me to like this dude. A lot of you in the comments say that Akuda is just a self-insert of the mangaka, so he can just get away with a ton of stuff and be the heroic, I gotta do the right thing type of character, and I low-key kind of see it, and I high-key just hate it a lot. Everything else is fine, the alternatives are cool, the fight scenes are awesome, there's still a lot of stuff we don't know about that I want answers to, and there are some pretty emotional moments and some good character developments with stuff like Kogami and Kaede, Kogami and his mother, and stuff with Sukune's father and Sukune herself with Kogami. But I feel like the bad just overweighs the good, and it's very distracting, especially since it plays a huge part of the actual plot. I've just learned to try to have as much fun with it, not take it too seriously, even though the mangaka clearly wants us to take it seriously. But at the end of the day, it's still pretty bad. So get ready for part 3 coming next week, and then the special finale coming out on February 21st. But thank you guys for watching this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Remember to join the Discord server. The link will be in the description below. And if you guys want more horror videos like this one, then why not scroll down and hit that subscribe button. But I'll be seeing you guys in the next video.